I almost married the wrong man. Story time. Disclaimer, this is my story time. 11 years ago, I was set to marry a man that I'd only known for 6 months. As some of you might know, I am an actress, and that's how I met him. We were both cast in the same film as boyfriend and girlfriend. And because of this, the director wanted us to spend time together and create chemistry. The director even asked us to rehearse some of our kissing scenes, which really we only rehearsed one time. Was it awkward? Absolutely. But spending so much time together during rehearsals really did it. It's kind of hard to not develop feelings for somebody that you're working with who just happens to be attractive and you're supposed to be developing this chemistry. A few weeks later, we were dating. A few months later, we decided to move to LA together to pursue our acting dreams. But soon after we moved to LA, the cracks started showing. I am the poster child for a go-getter. I'm a hustler. I will do everything in my power to chase my dreams. His motivation was not the same. While I had 4 jobs, he had 1 job. I was paying for the bills. I was even paying for his student loans. I was sending out emails and submitting both of us to projects. Are you angry yet? Because it gets worse. I was his provider in every sense of the word. Part 2 is up. I almost married the wrong man. Story time. Disclaimer, this is my story time. I was paying for the bills, providing for him, even paying off his student loans. I also cooked for him, and I also helped him by trying to find him acting jobs. I was the best possible fiance he could have ever asked for. Around that time, I decided to quit some of my jobs. I transitioned over to working at a dancing club as a cocktail waitress. And this is around the time that I asked him if he could get a higher paying job. At the time, he was working at a movie theater. He was making $8 an hour, and to him, this was enough. It was enough because I was paying for the rest. When I wanted to quit my jobs, he was against it. Why do you think? I felt like his bank account, like a debit card he could swipe every time he needed money. He would take and I would give. So when I asked him to consider getting a better job, he told me that he didn't want to because his best friend worked at the movie theater he worked at. He was comfortable. He loved his job. It was an easy job for a man. I got to watch all the free movies I wanted. What more could I ask for? A partner that would help me? No, that was too much to ask for. But can you believe that it actually does get worse? Part 3 is up. I almost married the wrong man. Story time. Disclaimer, this is my story time. When I asked him to get a higher paying job so he could help me out with the bills, he flat out said no. His job at the theater was too cozy. And a few weeks later, I experienced something horrible at the dance club that I was working at, which made me reflect on every choice I had made up until that point. I left my family to move away with somebody I didn't know, to a new city, thousands of miles away. I left my mom with major depression. To this day, I still hold so much guilt for that. And I told my fiance about the essay that I experienced at the club. His response was for me to get over it. When I told him I wanted to quit, he said no. How dare I try to quit the job that was providing for him? I broke up with him 2 days later, only to fall into an even more toxic relationship. But that's for another time. Self-care sister out.
Remember snack time when we were kids and the grown-up would be passing out cookies or something, and ultimately one of the kids would start screaming their head off because their cookie was broken and they did not want a broken cookie, but there were no extra cookies, so one of the kids had to have the broken cookie, and if the other kid's tantrum went on long enough and loud enough, the grown-up in charge would find a child who was willing to eat the broken cookie. And broken cookie kids would get so much praise from the grown-ups for being broken cookie kids. You're so mature. You're being such a big kid right now. You don't mind. You just want everyone to have a good time. And because of this praise, we thought that we were on the right track. We thought that if we continued to be the broken cookie kids, things would go really well for us in life because grown-ups loved us for being the broken cookie kids. Everyone said how amazing we were, which is why we let the pattern continue. And when we're teenagers, we'll take the bad end of a deal and we'll room at camp every year with the kid who nobody gets along with because we get along with everybody. We constantly sacrifice our own needs and wants because it's okay to have wants. It's okay to want things you don't need, but we sacrifice those wants because we think that's what we're supposed to do. And since we were a child, that was our kind of assigned role because we were willing to slide into it. Or maybe we were forced into it. Either way, it just starts to wear you down and you get into the workforce and you're an adult person, but you're still a broken cookie kid. And you still have to work with the people no one else wants to work with. You have to do the jobs that nobody else wants to do. Because the kids who threw tantrums over broken cookies and got what they wanted learned that it was okay to push back and fight for what they wanted, even against authority. But the broken cookie kids learned that our value was in making sure everybody else got what they wanted and everybody else is having a good time. And the best part is you don't know how to push back against the way people are treating you. And then if you complain about it, people say, well, why didn't you push back? Why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you say that you didn't want to do that? Because it's hard. And we have to push back against our conditioning from our whole entire lives. My whole life, I heard people say, Kate doesn't mind and Kate gets along with everybody. But now I do mind and I don't get along with everybody. And I'm happier than I've ever been.
story time about how my date put something in my drink. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I have the worst luck with guys. I'm an extremely shy person. So I signed up to every dating app you can imagine. I matched with this guy on Hinge and he suggested that we talk for a few weeks before we even decided to meet up. And he meant like seriously talk. We texted pretty much all day long for 4 weeks. In the last week, we decided to FaceTime. At this point, I was completely and utterly obsessed with him. And then I realized that he looked like Ryan Gosling. Huge coincidence because Ryan Gosling is my biggest celebrity crush. After the 4 weeks, we decided to finally meet up. Second crazy coincidence, the bar we chose was local to both of us. Little did we know that we lived 2 minutes away from the bar in opposite directions. We went straight to the bar and started ordering drinks. We both had 2 drinks, and after 30 minutes, we ordered another set of drinks. Usually on a first date, I would never go for a third drink, but I liked him so much and I was so comfortable that I decided to get the third drink. Not even 4 minutes after I finished the drink, I start feeling so dizzy and sick. He obviously noticed right away and suggested that we go get some food. We walked around the corner to a pizza place and grabbed a bite. Suddenly, I'm in his apartment. He starts kissing me and tries to go, down there, and I kept saying no. Kissing became more aggressive, eventually leading him to pin my arms down to my sides. Out of nowhere, a UPS guy shows up and starts knocking on the door trying to get a signature. I ran out of that apartment so quickly, I reported him the next day. But when they tested my blood, they said there was nothing in my system. So basically, it's my word against his. Guess what? This guy has not stopped messaging me. I need to catch him in the act. What should I do?
Am I wrong for telling my wife that my mother will never love her and to stop trying? I have been married to my wife for 2 years, and the best way to describe my mother is cold. She's not rude, but she's not interested in my wife. The best way I can explain my mom is that she's definitely tired. She's had a really hard life, doesn't have much affection left to give, and rarely gets close to anyone. It's pure disinterest, and she can't bring herself to care about new people. She's a retired old lady that just wants to sit on the porch and not make small talk. Sidebar, I'm pretty sure I put way too much moisturizer, so I had to remove the foundation, put more moisturizer, and then do foundation again. Anyways, I've explained this to my wife and told my mother's story. We had a get-together at my mom's house, and my mom does not like it when people bring food. She works all day to make a spread, and she wants to provide for the guests, but my wife came from work and brought potato salad. So I stopped her from bringing it in, and the whole time she was bothering my mom on the porch. Am I wrong for telling my wife that my mother will never love her and to stop trying? My wife asked my mom if she wants to go on a shopping trip, and when my mom asked her for some quiet, she still kept talking. So when I walked by, my mom actually asked me to take my wife away from her, which obviously made my wife upset. But I did do it because I could see my mom was getting close to her end of the rope. Me and my wife had a talk in the car about what that was about, and she said she just wants to be loved by her mother-in-law. She said that she's being nice, so she doesn't get why she doesn't like her. So I plainly told her that my mother will never love her and to just stop. What she's doing is actively making her dislike you and leave the woman alone. Her response was calling me a jerk, and now she hasn't spoken to me since. Also, because people were asking if any time people do join her on the porch, it's usually very small talk or just watching the garden. And my mom did try to say it in more polite ways, but it just wasn't working. Am I wrong for not eating the dinner that my husband made for me? This is about me, 31 female, and my husband, 30 male. In our household, we don't really cook because we both work at places with free or very cheap, warm, and good lunches. So on weekdays, we tend to have very light dinners like simple sandwiches or sometimes even nothing if we're still full from lunch. And if we're not working on that day, we mostly get takeout or go out to eat. And on the rare occasions we want homemade dinner, I'm the one who cooks because frankly, my husband is a horrible cook and always has been. So my 31st birthday fell on a weekday this year and I wasn't planning on celebrating. I just wanted to get some nice dinner with my husband and watch a movie afterwards. So I asked him if he wanted to go to one of our favorite restaurants, but he said no and that he'd take care of dinner. I thought cool, thinking that he'd get takeout or just order in. But when I came home from work, I went into the living room and saw my husband setting the table. And he said he made me dinner. Am I wrong for not eating the dinner that my husband made for me? He said that he made me dinner, and that surprised me because again, he is not a good cook. But I sit down and wait for him to finish setting the table. And well, it was bad, very bad. The pasta dish he made, the sauce was weirdly grainy and oily and it smelled off too. He also tried to make little pies stuffed with cheese, but all the pies were half burned and most of the cheese had oozed out from them already. Not to mention the chocolate pudding he made for dessert was still extremely liquidy. It was very clear that nothing turned out the way it should have, but I thanked him and told him I appreciated the effort. But I said that we both know his cooking skills are bad, so he should have just gotten takeout. He was upset, but honestly, he knew the food was messed up. And I still wanted a nice dinner, so I asked if we could order in, but he refused. I still ordered food for him too, but he only ate a small portion of his dinner. He called me a jerk and said at the very least I should have tried the food.